Welcome to MainTrain 2021 presentation on must-win battles for maintenance. I have the pleasure of introducing Peter Phillips, who is an industrial maintenance consultant and trainer, program designer with over 40 years of industrial experience. He's currently the maintenance system support manager for CertainTeed Gypsum Canada. I'd like to kick it off and let Peter do his thing. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Cam. Welcome everybody for the presentation. Just to let you know up front, I did record this about 2-3 weeks ago in preparation for the MainTrain here in Nova Scotia, where I live. This time here, we'll have the odd hurricane come through and we'll lose internet for 2 or 3 days. And I didn't want that to happen and try to, do a live presentation and not have the ability to actually get on the internet to do this. So there's a bit of introduction in the beginning, but as Cam said, I've been working probably 40 years or more. I guess I counted them a little bit ago. It's about probably 45 years now in industrial maintenance, and I'm getting close to the end of my career, but I'm still having lots of fun. So we'll continue doing it for a while. But I try to bring the best practices from all the different organizations and companies I've worked with through the years, and it goes from anywhere from food processing to car manufacturing parts and universities and laboratories and so on. So this must-win battles, maintenance must-win battles, is just one of in a series of presentations that I do. And most of them lately, of course, has been on webinars and whatnot due to COVID. But we often do a lot of different conferences prior to that. So we do maintenance fundamentals is another one, getting back to the basics. And then we have another 1 or 2 that talk about the people you work with, which is a fun, lighthearted look at the personalities we engage with in the maintenance department and how we need to understand and manage them. So without further ado, I think we're going to start the video, and then I'll be happy to answer your questions after. So enjoy.
Welcome everybody to the MainTrain Maintenance Must-Win Battles. I take this opportunity to thank PMAC for giving me the opportunity to speak to you today, as well as acknowledge all the work that the PMAC staff have done to make this event so successful. So just before we get started, just to give you a quick overview, I'm Peter Phillips. I'm the Maintenance System Support Manager for CertainTeed Gypsum. CertainTeed Gypsum makes building products. In this particular case, make drywall and gypsum board. Most everybody has this in their homes or at their office. It's what we hang on the wall and we crack fill it and paint it. They have over 13 plants in North America, running at various speeds, anywhere from 150 to 500 feet per minute. And that's a great deal of wallboard. And you'll see going forward as we talk about these must-win battles that a little bit of downtime can add up to a whole lot of lost product in a hurry. This presentation is a case study of one of our plants in North Carolina and how they looked at some of their deficiencies and breakdowns and reliability problems, and how we needed to correct that. So meeting with our maintenance team there, we come up with some initial 7 steps. We call them our maintenance must-win battles, and really what it turned out to be was getting back to the basics. One of the first things we did at the plant was look at our technical reliability and see where we had our largest problems, and exactly, get the data to tell us that we really need to do something. So when you look at our graph here, you can see that back in 2018, we were well below our blue targets. We had several months there in a row that causes a great deal of grief. And we look into 2019, although we were a little bit more consistent, there were still sporadic breakdowns here and there that really we needed to address in order to get more reliable. This slide here actually shows a little bit better picture of where we stood in the 3rd and 4th quarter of 2019. You can see in the red here that we're well above our targets that we want to meet in order to call ourselves reliable, and we see that these breakdowns were causing us a great deal of grief. So that led us even further forward, knowing that we had some must-win battles that we needed to address. So sitting down with the maintenance team, we come up with 7 key elements of our must-win battles of what we needed to do in order to curb the reliability and the breakdown issues that we had, and several of them start with the storerooms. Second was the lubrication standards. The third one was finding problems before they actually even start. Although we did have a pretty good work order management system, we didn't communicate very well of what was going on with the equipment. We also endeavored to go forward and work with our work order kitting. And we looked at workshop 5X practices, and then of course we knew that we had to support this change and continue to sustain our first 6 elements of our must-win battles. We put the storerooms first, mainly because the fact that it takes so long to get a storeroom in a world-class state. And the reason we do this is to, again, help reliability. In one of our other seminars called Maintenance Fundamentals, we talk about how the storerooms affect MTTR, mean time to repair, and MTBF, mean time between failures of equipment. And it's number 1 on our list for a lot of reasons because it takes so long to do it. If any of you have ever taken the time to organize your storeroom, to get everything in order like you see here, it takes a good long time, often depending on the state of your storeroom, weeks, months, and sometimes I've seen it take a year or more. And one of the first things we do with the storeroom, of course, is if it's in really bad shape, is we basically just backed up a dumpster to the door of the storeroom, and we start pitching out things that are obsolete, used parts that might be on the shelf, any other part that we no longer use. So we call that purging. So the very first thing we do is a big purge. We throw out everything that we feel that we don't need. And after that, we can start to decide how we're going to lay out the storeroom, because we now know how many parts we have to arrange. Many times what I'll do is sit down with the storeroom personnel and we decide where things are going to go. We do have a set process that we do that, but after it's purged, we do a rough organization. So basically we get the parts where they're going to reside in the storeroom. We do another purge, because once you get them organized in a fashion that you feel that this is where they're going to go, you're going to find a few more parts that don't belong here anymore, and so forth. So we purge again, and then what we do, we start to set the parts in place, exactly where they're going to go on the shelves. We don't fill every shelf 100%. We leave the 20 to 30% available on the store shelf in order to allow for growth going forward. You see in the picture here, this is some of the labeling that we do. I'll get into that a little bit deeper in the moment, but you can see that 21, 22, this is the actual upright for that particular group of parts. Our next step is to go out and gather the information on the part in order to fulfill the needs of our CMMS. So all that information is documented, put in maybe an Excel spreadsheet, upload it maybe into the CMS, at the very least maybe hand typed into the computer. From there we determine the quantity that we want to have on hand. As well, we determine reorder points. We need to label and barcode each and every one of the shelves and the bin location. And of course, the other thing that needs to be done is where do we buy these parts. But when you look at this particular picture here on the right, you can see that each bin has a number. You can look at 22C8, 22C9, 22C10, 22C11. Up on the bin itself has a barcode with the part number, part description, quantity on hand, the box number. So one of the things that we do to test whether we've achieved a world-class storeroom is do a very simple test with somebody that comes to the plant. Might be a visitor, might be a vendor, and what we do is give them a very, very quick overview of the storeroom. Then we give them a part number and a location, and we time them. And if they're back within 90 seconds with that right part in their hand, then we know that we have achieved our standard as a world-class storeroom. We ask the vendor to come in. We test this many times. We'll get them to do the same thing. We often make a competition of it, saying, okay, the last person that did this did it in 68 seconds. See if you can find the part a little bit faster. And so it's a great deal of fun for the storekeeper to do this, but this is our measure to see that we have a world-class storeroom. And then, of course, we have to come up with standards to follow to sustain the storeroom, and in order to keep it looking like you see here in this picture. One of the things that we did for the plants, because people like me, I'm their support manager, can't always be there in the 14, 15 sites that we have that have storerooms. And so we created what we call the Basin Storeroom Guide. It was created by myself and a person that worked for me for many years, Sterl Sweeney. And what's inside of this book is the basic guidelines, safety first, looking at your available space, how to lay out a successful storeroom, assessing your storage needs, what kind of bins and shelves and so forth do you need. We look at naming conventions. You might have looked back when you looked at our labeling on the previous one, that the bins and so forth all have a naming nomenclature. And then we talk about storeroom management, as I just mentioned a second ago. How are we going to sustain the storeroom to keep it looking like we want it to for many years to come? Number 2 in our must-win battles was our lubrication standards. Lubrication and its equipment is often overlooked and poorly looked after. This particular plant has gone through its lubrication room. You can see that it looks very clean. Everything is properly labeled. We have grills on the floor for environmental spills. And it looks like, you know, if you went in there, you would be expected to keep things clean and so forth. We have color coding at a lot of our plants, and only certain lubricants go in a certain bearing, and they do this through color coding. Some of our gearboxes have special fittings on them that only will take the fitting on the applicant tool that will apply the special lubricant. Some of our sites have filtering system. We were told by the vendor that some of these drums often will have contaminants in them when they load them. And so we have filtering systems at our plant that any drums of oil that come in are filtered before they go in our own drums, just in order for us to keep our lubrication at a standard that we want. Part of our lubrication standard is our lubrication map, and you can see that this is just a very basic drawing here on the right. That can be created in Excel, and we've put this together to simulate the equipment. You can see that there's color coding. There's a 2/7 and a 2/8, which refers to our document that we're going to look at in the next slide. But basically, this is a map to show the person that's doing the lubrication where the equipment will be lubed. And the color coding refers to our standard document. So this is our document, and what does it tell us? Number 1, it tells us what we're going to lubricate. So what piece of equipment or what component of the equipment, when we're going to lubricate it, where we're going to lubricate it. In other words, where's the lubrication points? How are we going to lube it? In other words, what tool or application tool are we going to use to apply the lubricant, and how much do I apply to that component or to that grease point. So in this case, if we look here, we have a motor, we have a picture of it. It talks about a little bit about the information on the motor. We see that we're going to use a grease gun. It tells us how often we're going to grease it. It gives a little basic information on the fact that you're going to clean the zerk and so forth before you lubricate it, and how many shots do I give it. So this is done for every component. The next one is a pillow block, and it goes through the exact same thing. So any lubrication point on the machine has this document to tell the person exactly what they're going to lubricate. Number 3 of our must-win battles was finding problems, and we were trying to find problems on the equipment before they cause a failure. And what we have here is what we call our AIB boards, Area Improvement Boards. Now this board is directed at looking at the health of the equipment in a specific area. We have 3 different boards in this plant identifying the equipment in those specific areas. And we have 3 different types of tags. One's being a green tag, which is a maintenance tag, a red tag, which is an environmental safety tag, and a blue tag, which is an operator tag. The operators, as we know the equipment better than anybody does in the plant. They spend their entire shift, 8, maybe 12 hours around that equipment, and they'll hear little noises coming behind a guard, or they'll notice something misaligned, or they'll notice some other things that just not right with the equipment. And this board and the tags are meant for the operator to report these problems. So they create the tag, they'll hang one copy on the equipment, and they'll hang one copy here on this board. And once a day, the operator and the maintenance person responsible for that area will meet at this board. And what they do is they discuss the tags that's come in over the last 24 hours, determine what type of tag it is. If it's a maintenance tag or a safety environmental tag, does it need to go to maintenance? If so, the technician creates a work request in the CMMS system, and then it's dealt with by the planner, and which will get planned and initiated to get repaired. There's a few other graphs and so forth on this. There's a logbook here for tags to be recorded. There's a whiteboard for communication as well. If there's something I want somebody to know, maybe the operator wants to write something on there, or the maintenance person wants to write something on there, is a part of our communication. This board is extremely important. When we first initiated this process, this board was already there. It was cluttered with a lot of other things. We found out that we had over 50 existing tags on backlog that had not been addressed. So that was one of the very first things we did, was address the 50 tags of backlog in order to show the operators, listen, we're paying attention. We do want your input. And from there, it seemed to grow. And our fact that we look and visit this board every day, and the operator and the maintenance person do this every day. Once a week, we also have some other activities go on this board, which I'll explain a little bit later. But this board has been one of the biggest reliability improvements that we have undertaken. That has helped our graphs and so forth and our KPIs. And it's been extremely successful. Number 4 of our must-win battles was our work order management system. You can see that this is our work order management board. It's a very large display. You can see that it's about 20 cinder blocks long, so it's about 20 feet or so long. We took a little while just to find the right spot to put this. We went through several design sessions on just exactly what this board would look like. In essence, it does do 3 specific things. One is operational. In other words, what is going on with the equipment over a specific period of time. It also communicates to operations, what is going on, what contractors are going to be on site, what's happened in the last 24 hours. Tactical is what is currently in play and what's the most important things that we need to address at this point in time. And then we have strategic part of the whole board, which I'll get into here in a minute. It's all about our work order planning and scheduling and how we kit parts and stuff and get them available for the work that needs to be done on the equipment. So the board is divided up into sections. We have down day assignments. We have a down day once a week, so there's people that are assigned to specific work. If you look at the yellow box just beside it, this is our down day schedule. It's coded in pink and a blue, one being electrical, one being mechanic. It describes what work will be done, who's doing it, how long it's going to take. On top there's a little bit of information on some graphing of what we do for our down days that just keep people informed of how well we're doing. On the right-hand side, we have what we call our runtime assignments, and that's what's happening over the next week or so, what equipment's being worked on. That can be worked on during non-down days or when the equipment is running, who's assigned to that. Everything has a priority, and it's just really good communication to let people know who's working on what, when it's going to happen. The next part of our board is very technician specific. In the yellow square here, we can see that we have mail slots. This is where we place the work orders in for specific people that's going to execute them. They have down day and run time work orders. They have projects. There's opportunity work orders slot here as well, which means we have a piece of equipment that needs work, but we need downtime. If operations happen to let us know that they're going to be down for a specific period of time, maybe on a quality problem, whatever, they're going to be down an hour, we have our work orders available to us called opportunity work orders, and we'll find one that we want to do and a specific priority that can be done in an hour, and we take that and get it done while the equipment is down. We also have other slots here for completed work orders, so the maintenance planner can pick those up and get them closed off in our CMMS. Next part of the board is our contractor management board. This allows us to know where contractors are in the plant. There's little magnetic circles there that we can place within the plant to let people know where contractors are working. Below that are some contractor work orders for the contractor when they arrive, so they also have their own mail slots as well. One of the other things we have here is just a straight up whiteboard for communication, both electrical and mechanical. So if there's things that's going on out on the plant floor, that's good to let people know. It might be a message to the oncoming maintenance crew to let them know that we've experienced some problems in this area and what they've done and what to look out for. It just gives a little bit of background information on what's going on. It also gives operations, a production supervisor can come and have a look at this board at the beginning of the shift to give them some idea about what's been happening and what maybe they might need to look out for. Basically, it's keeping me in the loop. We found that it's extremely important. Things work a whole lot better with work order management if everybody knows what's going on and there is no surprises. Our next must-win battle is work order kitting. When you look at the picture here, that looks very well organized. The plant is extremely proud of how they organize their kitting. And what kitting is, basically, we have work orders that need parts. The storekeeper arranges the parts in these bins and has a work order attached with them. The work orders that the maintenance people get tell them the location of their kit. This is all managed by the storekeeper, done well in advance of the work that's going to be performed. You can see it's very clean and organized. You can see some bins that are upside down. Those are ones that are available for the storekeeper to kit some parts. Here we see the return to stores area, so parts that weren't used in the kit or the maintenance person got parts out of the storeroom and didn't use them, they return them here. And there's basic reasons why we want the storekeeper to do this. One of the primary reasons is we want to inspect that part before it goes back in the storeroom. So if it wasn't used at all, still in its packaging, no problem. If it happened to be taken out of its package, temporarily put on the equipment and then removed because maybe they found that that wasn't a problem. So these parts are put back here on this top shelf. There's a work order goes with them. The storekeeper inspects them before they're returned. If he needs help from a technician to inspect it, he does that. He at that point scans a part back in the stores. This relieves the craftsperson from having to do this and having scanner mistakes. And this whole process has taken the weight off the craftsman to think about this is one more thing I have to do. It's a storekeeper's responsibility anyway to maintain the parts in the storeroom, so there are the people that do it. Up above we have a display, just some with the current KPIs, key performance indicators, that means something to the maintenance department. Maybe it's similar to the ones that we've seen before, our breakdown stats. It also has our work order completion stats and so forth. Just this information of how we're doing in the maintenance department maintaining this piece of equipment. Number 6 is our Shop 5S project. In this case, again, you can see a pretty well organized shop. The way I kind of like to look at this, if I was bringing my car in for repair and I've taken it into a shop that looks like this, I probably feel pretty confident that these people are professionals and kind of care about what they're doing. Here, everything has a place. You see their two boxes and their benches. Everything is has a blue or colored floor pattern where things need to go. They actually went to the expense of epoxying this floor, and the lines are all epoxied into the floor. And you can see that it looks very professionally done, and the guys keep it looking very professional. One of the things that we found is that because they keep their own work area looking like this when they go out in the plant and work on equipment, that they in fact carry out the same type of habits that they do here and keep things neat and tidy and clean. And they work like professionals. And one of the things that we stress to the maintenance people is you are a professional. Electrician or mechanic, as we know, Industrial mechanic takes 4 years at least to get your certification. You are a professional. It takes that long to go to university and college. And we really want these folks to know that, listen, you're a professional. You've worked very hard to get where you're at, and be proud of what you're doing. And it certainly has been seen when they keep their shop looking like this, that they do believe that they're professionals. Our final element of our must-win valuables are our cultural change. And in order to sustain our 6 previous elements of our must-win battles, we knew that we were going to have to get some people at least to think and work differently within our maintenance department, how we worked on equipment, how we communicated with operations. And we knew we had to do this in order to sustain our other 6 elements. So in the past, a lot of times management would determine what our culture would be. They developed their values and attitudes, and then they told us what we were going to do. In this particular model, we sat down with the maintenance staff. We talked about what we needed to do in order to serve the equipment the best that we could, what values and attitudes we had to have towards operations and equipment in general. And all this was in order for us to make a cultural change. So as management, we realized that we had 4 change management practices that we had to initiate. One was organizational change, one was clear goal setting, consistent messaging, and big changes start with small events. So the first element of culture change is organizational change, and it does require methodology, and we used a popular ADKAR model, and each one of the letters initiates or talks about certain elements that you need to address. First one being awareness, to ensure we recognize the problem. We did recognize the problem that we had reliability issues, but further than that, what were the problems that we need to address from a maintenance perspective? Secondly was the desire, and we need to talk about the benefits of going through with our must-win battles and what would the benefits be. And we also had to address and talk about what the consequences would be if we didn't follow through with them. We needed to know and to initiate how we were going to maintain the change and keep things going in the direction that we wanted to. In other words, create better reliability and less breakdown. We also needed to look at our gaps of why we weren't achieving the results that we wanted. So, for example, maybe a maintenance person needed a specific training or something, and we needed to make sure that they received that. And then there's a reinforcement where we need to measure our successes and our failures, and make sure that we rewarded our wins, and make sure people knew that they were appreciated for the efforts they were putting in. Number 2 of our cultural change was clear and concise goals. And clear and concise goals actually inspire people to go forward and work towards our vision. And what we did to create a vision, we actually sit down with the maintenance folks, and this took 2 to 3 hours on several different occasions to actually come up with a vision statement. What the maintenance department wanted their vision to be, and what they wanted the maintenance department to look like in the future. We talked about why we want to do this. We talked about if somebody wanted more information about our must-win battles, who would they talk to? And if I want to contribute to the must-win battles in any one of the elements, how do I contribute? And how do I get started to do this? So this was all to inspire people to work with us, to embrace our 6 elements, and to get better equipment reliability. Number 3 is consistent messaging. And what you've probably noticed in the previous slides is we give people ample opportunity to write on whiteboards, to communicate things going on with the equipment. They can write tags on imperfections they find in the equipment. They can look at schedules for the equipment going forward. And what we did realize that this consistent and clear and concise information did give consistent results. And it gets everybody involved. And for example of getting everybody involved, we talked about our AIB boards earlier, where the maintenance person responsible for that area and the operator meet on a daily basis to discuss tags. And what we do on a Friday is not only do they meet there, but also the maintenance manager, the maintenance supervisor, and the engineer for that area also attend that meeting to provide their support and listen to what's happening on the equipment and what the operator and the maintenance person have planned for that equipment going forward, how many tags they've come up with during the week and so forth. So it's a top to bottom message that tells everybody, listen, this does matter. We're here to listen, and we want this to be successful. The final change management practice is big changes start with small steps, and it spreads the culture. It gets people enthusiastic. And one of the things that we did, as I mentioned earlier, we addressed the 50 backlog tags that were on the equipment that had been sitting there for some time, to let the operators and other people realize, listen, we mean business. We are interested in our must-win battles, and we would like your participation, but we need to prove to you that we are moving forward. And so by doing so, we got a lot of peer advocates. People said, look what they're doing in that particular area. I can hardly wait till it's our turn in our area to implement this AIB board and different things. And the other thing we did was tailor the message to the people that we were talking to. You've seen the display board that we had above the return to stores, where we talked about the KPIs and so forth. On the AIB board, we have useful information to the operators and so forth. So when you're talking about, for example, the maintenance manager or the plant manager, they're looking for things in a view from a 30-foot level. And we organize that information differently. But when we're talking with the operators and the maintenance staff, we need to tailor the message that means something to them. The other thing was that we did celebrate our successes. We investigated our failures, and we discussed improvements, and we made sure that people knew that they were a valuable asset to this complete must-win battles. This final slide talks about our results. It's a little bit limited. We started this back in October 2019, and you can see that it was very high, the breakdown ratio. And in November, December, you can see that we had a very quick and steady decline. It has continued to trend in that direction. The gypsum business is very competitive, so you can understand that we don't always share all of our information. But I can assure you that the trend did continue. And as I mentioned before, one of our biggest things that helped us was the AIB board, where we start to identify problems before they occurred. And it gave us a great kickoff. It was a lot of low-hanging fruit that really helped us. But in the past year and more, this has continued to trend in this direction, and we're consistently meeting targets. We do have the odd red one occasionally, because we'll have that oddity that comes up with a piece of equipment that catches us by surprise, but there are very few and far between, and we're very happy with the success of our must-win battles. And with that, we'll open up the floor for questions. I want to thank everybody for participating and viewing this presentation, and looking forward to your questions.
So just a moment, everybody, while I...
Okay, so we have some questions, do we, Cam?
Yes, we do. Thanks, Peter. That was excellent. I kind of have a question there, and I missed it. Was the book that you referenced on storerooms?
Mm-hmm.
What book was that?
That's our basic storeroom design.
Yep.
Yeah.
And is that something that you've created, or is that?
Yeah, I wrote that book. Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Is that something that's available commercially, or?
Yeah, I can send you off some information on where people can get that if they wish to have it. Sure.
Sure, that'd be great if you can just chat, put it on the chat for the group. Yeah. Okay, there were some other questions here. Let me just see what I've got here. Well, the first question was, who owns the AIB board?
Okay, so that's a joint effort for sure between operations and the maintenance department. So you see it looks really neat there, and it's really, it's just the responsibility of the group. They know exactly how they want it to look. They know where the tags are supposed to go. They do have that logbook, even though they probably don't need it, but they'd like to be able to look back quickly at at previous tags and stuff. So it's definitely a joint effort. They also know that that every Friday when the rest of the group come around, the maintenance manager, sometimes even the plant manager, the maintenance manager, supervisor, and the area responsible engineer there, they know that they're coming, right? So that's another, incentive for them to make it look neat and tidy. But it's mostly because they feel the support from management and from the maintenance department that it just stays that way. It's quite remarkable, really.
Great. Next question is, which of the 6 elements did you find the most effective?
Actually, I would say there was 2 of them that was really effective. One, of course, was catching up on the AIB board with those 50 backlog tags. And then because of that, it did encourage them to say, okay, these guys mean business now. So because they actually stopped putting them in. I mean, they walked up to the board previous to this, and there's 50 hanging there, and they basically would say, well, I guess nobody's paying attention. Nobody's even addressing, look at these ones, how old they are, right? So the initial part of that brought into play that we met business. We wanted to hear from the operator, that the meetings between the operator and the maintenance guy. So that was a big one, right? To find things before they fail. And then, of course, we went back to our PM program and said, okay, these items may or may not need to be on our PM program to be inspected or monitored, condition monitoring or something. Root cause analysis, of course, was done. So behind the scenes, there was all the normal reliability activities that you need to keep the equipment reliable. So that was one. And then, of course, most of these plants, the storerooms were a wreck, right? I mean, you went in and you either didn't have the part or you couldn't find the part. So secondly, that certainly is a huge impact for the maintenance guys and know that they can go in and find the parts that they're looking for. So
right.
Those would be the 2 big heavy ones.
Okay, yeah. Thank you very much, Peter. That was terrific. I really appreciate your time. And if anybody has more questions, please post them in Feed Loop, or you can get a hold of Peter through the networking tab in the Feed Loop as well after the presentation.
And what I'll do, Cam, I'll probably put that in the Feed Loop, that if somebody's interested in that book.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd really like to see that as well.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks so much, Peter.
Thanks so much, you guys, for having me today.
All right. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye now.